We are back. Hello, hello. It is January 23rd, 2019. You can't see it over there, but my friend is doing a bunch of flexing. I love it. Welcome to the A-Side Live Chat Podcast. It is good to see you, friends. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning here in the desert. And I just want to thank you so much for spending a small part of your day with us. I hope all you guys out there are having a wonderful start to your week. I am joined today, as always, by the hardest working man in the business. He has a home game this week. He's covering Fedor versus Bellator. The California King himself, my better half, Marc Raimondi. What is going on, Marc? How are things?
Fedor versus Bellator. I told you we would do this. I said it when this fight got booked that we were going to say Fedor versus Bellator, and that has what has happened. It is good to see you, Shaun. I'm coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. Bellator 214 fight week kicks off in about a little over an hour, so I gotta probably be out of here a little bit quicker than usual. And how about this? Some new technology. I got a new laptop from our friends at Vox Media and SB Nation. Hopefully an upgrade in the quality of video. Hopefully the audio is stayed the same, and we are continuing to get better. Like I said, 1% every week. It's maybe not every week, but we're trying to make good on that 1% promise, and here it is. Hopefully this looks all right.
1% better. There are changes abound. You got a new laptop. I'm a married man for the first time.
That's right.
Look at this.
Wedding.
So much change.
You survived. You made it.
Man, I won't go too much into it because I know we don't got a lot of time and nobody really cares. But I have to say,
I care.
I have to say, it was the most stressful experience of my life leading up to it, planning it, spending money for it, paying for it, and everything. But man, I could not have asked for more. Friday was just an absolutely beautiful day. Me and my wife now, which is so crazy to say, have been together basically 10 years. So this was kind of a culmination, long coming. I had such an amazing time. I could not have asked for more. It was incredible. Saw a lot of old friends, danced, sang. It was good times.
Did you get wasted?
Oh, yeah, of course. What am I supposed to do? I bought like $800 worth of liquor for this open bar. Like, I'm not going to not drink that.
I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you got wasted. I'm glad you did not work on Saturday night like you were trying to do. You crazy SOB. I'm glad that we're without you for a weekend so you can enjoy your new wife and that whole situation. But here you are back again just a few days later. No honeymoon. When's the honeymoon?
No honeymoon yet. We got something. We're going to try to figure out something later in the year. She needs more PTO before we get it. And I'm such a sick bastard. I was trying to work on Saturday. I ended up just watching the fights regardless. I was watching the fights the day after my wedding because I just can't escape it, man. I just can't escape it.
What's wrong with you?
Oh, I love it. So let's get to it, man. The MMA world is rich with storylines after that event. I would say it's a very successful start to the UFC ESPN era. Now we have the aforementioned beginning of the Bellator calendar coming up, staring right down our face this week, plus plenty else. I mean, Conor McGregor, UFC 234, slew of fight bookings. There is so much to talk about. But as we always say, this is your guys' show. So we will talk about whatever you want us to talk about. You can ask us a question on the MMA Fighting page below. Any question that gets 3 recommendations, those will turn green and get priority. Or you can ask us a question on Twitter using the hashtags #TheA-Side or Chat Rappers. Replay of this show is coming up immediately following the show on YouTube. It'll also be on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever else you get your pods. And let's get to it, Marc. With that, let's do this. We have so many green questions and we do not have a lot of time, so we are going to do this. And my computer's acting up, so you're going to ask the first question because I can't get to it.
All right, here we go. From the MMAfighting.com comments our friend Abdel Riff. First of all, and most importantly, massive congrats to Shaun. Hope it was a beautiful wedding. How about that, Abdel?
That is so nice.
We had a few comments mention your wedding. Couple quick what's next questions for Cejudo, TJ, Greg Hardy, Donald Cerrone, and JoJo Calderwood. And last, both your guys' favorite Dennis Bermudez moment, and were you guys surprised he retired?
So this is an all-encompassing question that basically. So I love you, Abdel.
Making us go for a half hour on his one question.
I know. I love you, Abdel Riff. You are a loyal listener. We will get to all of this throughout the show. So I want to skip the first part of your question and just address the only part that was not asked throughout the rest of the comments. Dennis Bermudez, man.
Yeah.
Surprise retirement last Saturday. I didn't know that was coming. I don't think you did either. It was interesting though, man. It was kind of a nice moment for him. favorite Dennis Bermudez moment. He had a lot. He's been in the UFC a sneaky long amount of time. I think mine has to be the Matt Grice fight. I mean, that was just unbelievable fight from beginning to end. Really just kind of opened our eyes to who Dennis Bermudez was. What about you?
I mean, there were a few good Dennis Bermudez moments. He beat Max Holloway. I don't know if a lot of fans even remember or know this, but he beat Max Holloway back in 2013. Also, you mentioned the Matt Grice fight. He's had a lot of good fights in his career, and one of them was Diego Brandao in the Ultimate Fighter at the finale, Bisping versus Mayhem. That was a tremendous fight. He lost that fight, but it was a great fight. And he's had a good career. Always a really good guy, always a nice guy to deal with for the media. Can't say enough good things about Dennis Bermudez. And you know what? I respect that he's trying to get out at a time that he wants to. Coming off a win, by the way, a very good win. And I'm happy to see that, and I'm happy that he's moving on with his life, and it seems like he's comfortable and happy where he is as far as not just his MMA career and what it was, but just his life in general. He's trying to move on from the game, which is not easy for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that he beat Max Holloway. That was over the course of that crazy, really 7-fight win streak that he accumulated from 2012 to 14, where there was a moment in time where we were really talking about Dennis Bermudez as a potential challenger for a Jose Aldo or a Conor McGregor type of figure.
Yeah, he would have if he would have beaten Ricardo Lamas at UFC 180 in Mexico City. There was a very good chance. He went 8 in a row. There was a good chance that he was going to get a title shot at that point. But, of course, he lost to Lamas, then lost to Jeremy Stephens, in which, by the way, speaking of great Dennis Bermudez fights, remember that UFC 189 insane brawl with Jeremy Stephens? That was unreal.
You beat me to it. I totally forgot about that one, man, because I still maintain that UFC 189 was my favorite pay-per-view that I've ever been to, that I've ever seen. From top to bottom, the last 6 fights, from Matt Brown versus Tim Means to Conor versus Chad Mendes, were just 6 of the best fights of MMA action you could show someone in consecutive order. And you're right, Dennis Bermudez versus Jeremy Stephens was right in the middle of that, and that was an all-out war. I haven't watched it in a long time, but if I remember right, Dennis Bermudez dropped Jeremy Stephens multiple times in that fight, then ended up losing in the 3rd round with one of the most ridiculous. I think it was like a flying knee type of knockouts. It was just unreal moment to really set the table for what came next, which the very next fight was Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler, and we all know how that went.
Wild. What an event that was.
Yeah. Well, hey, great career, Dennis Bermudez. Hopefully all the best for what's next.
Yeah, for sure. Best wishes to Dennis. Your computer's still acting up. Want me to take the next question?
I got it. I am back, locked in. I'm a professional, Marc Raimondi. Let's go. Next one coming from Hefe01, who wants to talk about a little bit Cowboy Cerrone. Donald Cerrone put on a solid throwback performance against a strong up-and-coming prospect. He writes, seems like when we are ready to watch him ride off into the sunset, he puts on a contender-worthy fight. Now with Conor McGregor firmly in his sights, a matchup that I'm all in for, by the way, he writes, would a win over Conor McGregor put him in a fight against Khabib? If he never gets a UFC title, is he the best fighter to never hold UFC gold? P.S. Saints got robbed. Yes, they did, Hefe. Yes, they did. Although they also got the ball in overtime to start the game, so you can't only complain so much.
Donald Cerrone, I mean, what can you say about this guy? It's pretty crazy. I think people, before the Perry fight, before he finished Mike Perry, just a few months ago at UFC Denver, I think people were kind of writing him off a little bit at 170. He had a few tough performances, a losing streak, and I think people were ready to say, you know what, maybe Cowboy has finally gotten old. Maybe he's reached that point. But, man, the guy doesn't go away. He's turned it around. He beat Perry, had the win, of course, on Saturday night against a guy that people kind of counted him out against, Alexander Hernandez. So I think that and he finished him, and you know, the old wily veteran kind of knocked off the young hungry up and comer. Classic storyline there. I think that I like that fight against McGregor, and I know that we've had numerous conversations, Shaun, about who should McGregor get next, and we've said everywhere from Anderson Silva to Al Iaquinta to Dustin Poirier. The list goes on and on and on. But I think at this point in time, with the momentum that Cowboy has and the popularity that Cowboy has, I think that might be the best choice yet to fight McGregor. And we don't know when McGregor's coming back. Of course, he has the Nevada Athletic Commission situation to deal with, but I do like Cowboy McGregor. I think that Cowboy is the perfect opponent in terms of, look, McGregor has now lost to Habib. Look, let's put it right out there. Let's be honest. The UFC would benefit from McGregor getting a win here, and not the Cowboy is an easy win by any stretch of the imagination. He's not, but you don't want to put McGregor in there against a wrestler. You right? I mean, you want to give him the opportunity to get back on track. And Cowboy is a guy that will throw down with him, and McGregor, of course, in a striking fight, has a good chance against just about anybody. So it'll be a great fight. Cowboy is. I think Cowboy is a bigger name than an Iaquinta, than Dustin Poirier. I think for all those reasons, it makes sense. As far as Cowboy, if he wins, does he get the Habib shot? Very possible, but that division is so up in the air and so crazy right now, it's hard to say. And I think the last question that Hefe had about Cowboy being, would he be the best ever to not win a UFC title? Possibly, he'd be in that conversation, but I would still put guys like Fedor above there. If you're talking guys who have been in the UFC and have never won a title, Dan Henderson always comes to mind, but he would be on that list for sure.
Yeah. So I have to upfront apologize to everyone out there. The video was listed as unlisted. We forgot to make it public. So hopefully now that is rectified. I've seen some people on Twitter complain about that. So appreciate that, guys. But in the meantime, man, I echo a lot of what you said, man. I love everything about whatever this new version of Dad Cowboy Cerrone is. Dad Donald Cerrone is to me, if this keeps up, we may need to induct fatherhood Donald Cerrone into sort of the motivated BJ Penn and C-level Cain Velasquez Hall of Fame, because, man, I'll admit up front, I didn't like this matchup when it was first announced. We talked about it on this show. In fact, I really disliked it. It felt to me like we were almost throwing Cowboy to the wolves after sort of the career turnaround that he had against Mike Perry, and that whole big moment that he had in Denver, and then teasing a big fight. We were teasing that, maybe it's a Conor, maybe it's a Justin Gaethje, something like that. We end up with his return to 155 being Alexander Hernandez, who's a very good prospect. But man, was I wrong? I was so wrong. This was perfect. It is so crazy how far we have come from the Donald Cerrone who got flustered by Nate Diaz's trash talk back in the day, because this man was the butt of about 1,000 different insults from Alexander Hernandez in the lead up to this UFC Brooklyn fight. And what did he do? He stayed cool, calm. He fired back when he needed to, and he took the youngin out to the back to the woodshed and taught him a lesson he will never forget on Saturday night. Seriously, what a beautiful, beautiful performance. Our own Luke Thomas did an excellent breakdown of this fight on the Monday Morning Analyst. And just watching Cowboy slowly, methodically start to figure out Alexander Hernandez's pressure and starting to figure out his own range, then he was hitting that right knee to the head or body on every Hernandez entry. And you could just see him in his head figuring this out. All those nasty elbows from the clinch, the standing elbows. And at some point it just became too much, and Hernandez kind of turned into the one moving backward and wilting. It was just incredible stuff, man. It
was interesting, and sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to pop in for on that last point. Cerrone seemed markedly slower than Hernandez, yet his timing and his precision was so excellent that it didn't matter. He seemed less athletic, he seemed slower, and yet he was tuning the young fella up. It was a wonder to watch.
It was a veteran performance. It was a very seasoned, patient performance, and I love the Conor fight now. I liked it before after Mike Perry, and I like it even more now. To me, it makes sense on so many levels, and a lot of which you already said, so I won't trip over that too much. But the hardest part of putting together a Conor fight is really what? It's getting Conor to McGregor to agree to the damn fight. And that part already seems like it's kind of been taken care of. I mean, he was after the fight talking about, hey, I'll fight you, Cowboy. There's history there. Stylistically, it's a fun fight. It would be a very fun lead up. I almost wonder if it would be kind of a respectful lead up, considering where we are with these two men. You don't think?
Oh, no. Well, gotta sell some fights, my friend.
Either way, I think
that's not sell fights, unfortunately.
Either way, I think that's a winnable fight for Conor, while also being totally losable. Because if Conor McGregor lost by armbar or a triangle choke, would you really be surprised? Because I wouldn't at this point. But also, I feel like that's probably, honestly, the biggest non-title fight that the UFC could put on right now. Just in terms of pure pay-per-view buys. I think Conor versus Cowboy, the name value those guys bring, That's $1 million pay-per-view. Even with that, even you put that in the main event, even without a title, and that sells $1 million, I think.
I think it's absolutely. And people would say, oh, well, Conor sells $1 million on his own, but I think, again, like I said earlier, I think Cowboy is a bigger name than the people listed before. And you know what? Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to break kayfabe a little bit here, Shaun. I think Cowboy versus McGregor is actually a bigger fight than McGregor versus Anderson Silva. I really do. I like that better now.
Jesus Christ.
What? I'm being honest.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to be honest with you.
I hate you so much.
Why can't you accept my honesty? This is me being sincere, earnest, honest. I think that the Cowboy fight, in my eyes, just slightly has beaten out the Anderson Silva McGregor fight.
Let me ask you, because you have the last thing before we move on. You the past month or so, you've been really on board with the Ally Quinta versus Conor fight.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, at this point, and in this day forward, if you were given matchmaking duties, would you do that, or would you do the Cowboy fight?
I would do the Cowboy fight because I think both of them are dangerous opponents for Conor, of course, but they're not most likely not going to wrestle McGregor. Although Iaquinta is a pretty good wrestler, of course, in his own right. But I just think that Cowboy, he has momentum now. 2 fights ago, he was on a losing streak, so he didn't have that momentum. Now he has 2 finishes in a row against pretty tough guys. And I think that he has momentum, and I think that he's just a bigger name. He's been around. He has that name value. He really does. We saw the numbers on ESPN, on Big ESPN. Of course, he headlined the Big ESPN prelims against Hernandez. Were very good. It was the best prelim number that the UFC has had since, I think, 20. It's been a while. It's been a long time, since better than the entire Fox era. So he is a name. I think that he would generate a lot of buzz. They would sell the fight very well. There would be you said respect. They would sell the fight. They would sell the fight very, very well. And I'm here for it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Although you have to wonder, Cowboy's getting up there in age. Does he want to wait around for this whole McGregor commission situation to figure itself out? Allegedly, we're going to get some kind of something news about it, I guess, next week at the commission hearing on Tuesday. But we thought that in December as well, and we know what happened there. It got continued to the next one. So we'll see. But Cowboy likes to fight. I don't know if he wants to wait for McGregor, but this would be the one to wait for.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, what's next?
All right. From the MMA fighting comments, our friend Abdel Riff again getting in there early and often. Which ESPN TV headliner are you most looking forward to? ESPN 1, Kane versus Ngannou. ESPN 2, Gaethje versus Barboza. ESPN 3, Romero versus Costa, which, by the way, is not official yet. That's not a done deal, Romero versus Costa, because Yoel Romero is too busy absolutely crushing.
Hold on. Hold that thought.
On a reality show on Telemundo right now. So he can't actually accept the fight because he's away on a reality show. So that fight is not official yet. It might happen. I think Romero's team does want it, but it's not official yet. Not a done deal. But go back and I think you were just gonna say go back and watch go to your Romero's.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. I have some thoughts on that later.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll hold the Romero stuff, but basically Abdel is asking us which
fight is better.
Which is the fight that we're most looking forward to of the 3 big ESPN cards coming up?
So that's a hard question, man, because you're right. I think if Yoel Romero versus Costa was official, which it is not, that might take it for me, because that is such an intriguing fight that we've been waiting for so long.
I just want I want the pose down. I want this. That's all I'm asking for. Can we get that?
Of course you do. Of course you do.
What does that mean?
You know,
everyone wants that. They're just too afraid to admit it.
So, man, if you're just asking, if we take that one out, then, and so it's just Kane and Ngannou and Gaethje and Barboza, I don't know that I can even pick one. How can you pick between that? Justin Gaethje has been fight of the year, I think 3 of the past 4 years for our website. It seems as though every fight of his is going to be fight of the year, and him and Barboza is ridiculous. That is 2 savages who are going to do terrible, terrible things to each other, and I cannot wait to see it. Meanwhile, Cain Velasquez versus Ngannou is in my backyard. That's in Phoenix. And that whole card is pretty solid. And I have been waiting to see Cain Velasquez come back for a while. I spoke to him and his team a couple of weeks ago. I am really invested in that fight too. So I'm going to pick Gaethje Barboza, I think, just because pure I will always ride with Justin Gaethje. But damn, that is a hard decision. And the UFC really does feel like they are putting their best foot forward on these first few ESPN shows because these are some sick fights.
Yeah, 100%, which is good, which is what they need to do. I think that's important to put that, especially early on, because you have that big ESPN audience. I look, I can't say you're wrong, and I can't say that I don't disagree when you say Gaethje versus Barboza, because that is a symphony of violence. That is going to be epic. That's going to be absolutely vicious. I can't wait to see that. But the factor of Cain Velasquez coming back after not being around since UFC 200, that is ultra intriguing to me. And I have to choose Velasquez versus Ngannou for that reason, because I still think Cain Velasquez is one. I mean, I think if he would have been active, he would be regarded as the best heavyweight of all time. And he'd probably be heavyweight champion right now. I mean, maybe it's certainly within the realm of possibility. He'd be in that conversation at least. So him coming back, the matchup against Ngannou was very intriguing to me, because we had to figure out, what is this the same guy? Is this the same Cain that we saw a few years ago? What about Ngannou? Ngannou has that one hitter quitter power. I mean, he can put guys out no problem. It's and my phone is
ringing. My goodness, Marc.
But I'm gonna choose Velasquez versus Ngannou for all of the stated reasons. That's an incredible fight. I mean, it's such a cool contrast in styles, and I think it leads to the next contender for the heavyweight belt as well.
Yeah. All right, coming up next on the MMA Fighting page, coming from loyal listener Lucian, who wants to know about the Dillashaw Cejudo stoppage. Right at the start, congratulations, most heartfelt for Shaun's great moment. Thank you so much for that, Lucian. We have seen some discussion on the quick stoppage for the Cejudo Dillashaw fight, with especially Dana White lambasting it hard. But while I see the argument for it, I also felt that it was one of those no-win situations for a ref. Cejudo had dropped Dillashaw 3 times within 20 or so seconds, and now was pounding him out on the ground. While it was feasible for the referee to give Dillashaw a few more seconds to find himself there, it also felt like if the ref had done so, there is a high likelihood that the discussion would now be, why did the referee allow it to go for so long? Do you feel that I am being too generous for the referee here? And what were your thoughts on the stoppage? So, Marc, I mean, this was sort of the conversation that unfortunately dominated Saturday night after the event, because, and I say unfortunate because it was a very good event. It was an important event, and Henry Cejudo looked incredible. Like, it felt like this took away from his victory a little bit. But Marc, first things first, did you feel like the stoppage was too early?
I did not. I didn't feel like it was too early. I think you could say it was maybe a little early, but I don't blame referee Kevin McDonald for doing that, because everything about Dillashaw's body language in that very short amount of time did not look good. Beginning with when Cejudo pushed him on the opening exchange, and Dillashaw immediately lost his balance, kind of fell over, and then Cejudo pounced from there and landed a big head kick, landed a big right hand, and then landed that combination that you saw Dillashaw's head kind of whip around several times. And I think it was at that point where Kevin McDonald kind of made the decision to step in, because everything about that looked bad, and it didn't seem like it was going to get any better for Dillashaw. There was damage being done. And look, I totally get Dillashaw's point of view. I'm not saying that he is wrong for feeling the way that he feels. I think that if I was in his position, I would probably feel the same way. Like, let me go out of my shield. Let Cejudo put me out. Let him put me out, so there is no confusion, that there is no question about who the winner is. So I get that totally, but I feel like if you're Kevin McDonald, you are trying to live by the letter of the law, and you're trying to look. Was there intelligent defense right there? I don't know if there was. It's hard to say if there was. In an ideal situation, Shaun, I think that if he waited a few more seconds, I didn't think things were going to get any better for TJ. I think if Kevin McDonald waited a few more seconds, I think that Cejudo would have had the more definitive stop. But then you're also risking health issues for Dillashaw, which you don't want either. So in that moment, in that split second reaction for the referee, I really can't blame him for doing what he did. I don't think it was a bad call, but I also get Dillashaw feeling like, listen, this is a super fight. Give me an extra chance.
I think there was an element of that, right, where it's a super fight, give me an extra chance, but it also was just like, man, how much did you work to get down to 125?
Oh yeah,
and then to have that happen to you. I mean, I'll be honest. In the moment, in no way, shape, or form did the thought of it being an early stoppage even cross my mind. It may have been a tad early upon rewatch, but I agree with you. In no way is it an egregious stoppage. I mean, Cejudo landed that right hand that knocked down TJ just like about 18 seconds into the fight. And then there was about 12 more seconds. And over the course of those seconds, he dropped him a total of basically 3 times and unloaded a ton of unanswered punishment on him. And if you watch closely too, like TJ made the argument that he had a single leg on Cejudo and, you know, he was working to get up and things like that. And that's just not true, man. Like he did earlier in the sequence. But Henry Cejudo is an Olympic gold medal wrestler, for God's sake, if you hadn't heard, and I'm sure you have heard. He's sitting there raining down punches on this man. He swept his leg out of that autopilot single leg effortlessly and just kind of swirled around and continued to rain down punishment. At no point was that going to get better. Henry had full control over TJ at that point and was just going to give him further brain damage. And, you know, I know people point to the first Cody fight when mentioning kind of TJ's ability to recover. Mm-hmm. TJ got rocked at the end of the round, man. He had a whole 60 seconds to recover. This one was 30 seconds into the damn match.
Also, that was at 135, not
that was literally my next point. Is not only that, but it was pretty apparent on Saturday that the cut to 125 made TJ, like you said, maybe a little more frail than he usually was. And that was something I was worried about. And I mentioned numerous times on our show last week where TJ just looked like a skeleton all week, man. Like, I don't care what he says or what his team says. There is no way that he was walking into that fight as strong and as healthy as he does at 135. There's just no way. And there's no way his brain being so severely dehydrated didn't affect his ability to some degree to take and sustain that damage and that punishment and continue forward. I feel like it is unfortunate that the stoppage became the big conversation because, again, this was only going to get worse. And if TJ and Dana White in particular, which was hilarious to me, by the way, because it was pretty obvious what he wanted to happen on that night. If those two didn't throw a fit about it, no one would really be talking about the stoppage, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that it's very tough because on one hand, if you're watching as a fan, you do want something definitive, and you do want. I mean, look, we're all watching MMA because we kind of enjoy violence a little bit. We want to see a definitive knockout. That's kind of what fans want to see. It's just being honest. It's kind of hard to put into words because I don't think people want to see violence out on the streets for the most part. But I think a lot of people watch MMA because they do enjoy the violent aspect of it, and they want that. But it is the referee's job to take care of the fighters. That ultimately that is the job of the referee in the cage, is to, if things are going bad, you have to protect the guys in there. And I think that if you're Kevin McDonald, it happens so fast. These guys are so fast at that weight class. Cejudo is incredibly fast. And I think that in that split-second decision that he made, I can't find any fault with it because of this. If you look at the replay, and like you said, you were looking at the replay and it seemed like maybe it was a little bit early. It's slowed down, right? The replay is slowed down. So you're kind of seeing it with a lot more clarity because it's going slow. Kevin McDonald does not have that luxury. He has the ultra fast, lightning fast Henry Cejudo raining down punches on TJ Dillashaw, and he did it at that point what he thought he should have done. And again, I find no fault in it. Do I wish that maybe he waited a little bit longer just so that there was no question, that there was nothing soiling or tainting Cejudo's win, which I don't think there is, but I guess some people feel that way. Yeah, I do. I wish it maybe went a little bit longer, but I can't take any true fault in what McDonald did. Who, by the way, Dana White kind of hammered him afterward. But McDonald is not really a local referee. First of all, he's a certified trainer of referees for the ABC. He's worked all over the world. Does he have a ton of main event fights under his belt? No, but he has some main event fights under his belt. And look, for a very long time, Shaun, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but for a very long time, the top two referees were Herb Dean and John McCarthy. And if there was a big card, it was going to be main event Herb Dean, co-main event John McCarthy, or vice versa, or flip the switch a little bit. And no one else was really getting those big main events and co-main events. Now, in the post John McCarthy era, referees have to step up, and you have to give guys like Kevin McDonald a chance to referee these main events and co-main events. There's no way around it. Plus, Herb Dean is injured. Herb Dean is out. So McCarthy has stepped away. He's doing Bellator color commentary. Herb Dean is injured. So there are only a handful of referees who have the experience that Dana White was talking about in those big main event spots. And Kevin McDonald, I think, is one of the more experienced guys out there. So you can't blame the New York Commission for doing that. Herb Dean probably would have been that guy if he wasn't injured, but he's injured.
Yeah, I was good. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say Dana White calling Kevin McDonald the local referee is relatively comical, considering I am sure I don't know the exact countries, but I am sure he has refereed in countries all across the world. So I don't know if that's local. Let's keep it going, though. We'll continue to talk about Henry and TJ a little bit later. Next up on the MMA fighting page is coming from BCG347, who's asking about the next UFC champ. Who do you think is most likely to be the next champ in the UFC? Henry Cejudo, TJ Dillashaw, Valentina Shevchenko, Max Holloway, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tyron Woodley, Robert Whittaker, or one and only John Jones? What do you think, Marc?
This is a really good question. And looking at that list of names, all of them are possibilities, but I don't see anything in the foreseeable future that would make me say any one of them would be, if that makes sense. I think that if a 165-pound division opened up, I think that I would say Khabib Nurmagomedov would be the guy on that list that I think would be the next champ. It seems like the UFC is doing a lot of these super fights, and some of them have made sense, some of them have not made sense. But I don't know if, I mean, look, I think Henry Cejudo could certainly get that next shot at Dillashaw at 135, so he could certainly be the next guy. Maybe the most likely of that list. If there's a 165 division, I think Khabib Nurmagomedov could be the next guy. But I'm going to throw one more name out there, Shaun, that is not on Mr. BCG's list. I think Tatiana Suarez has a chance. She's not a current champion.
Okay.
She's not a current champion. But I think that she may get her shot at the strawweight belt this year in 2019. And she has talked about moving to 125. She's a big strawweight. She's talked about moving to 125 at some point. And I think that she is the next wave of women's fighters. I really do. I believe with her wrestling, she can beat a lot of people in either one of those divisions. So I'm gonna throw her name out. Not saying that she's gonna do it, but I would put her name on the list too as a non-champion who has that ability possibly in the future, this year, next year, whatever.
Oh my, Suarez versus Shevchenko. You just got me going. Oh my God.
It's one of the best fights in I mean, that they can do as far as the women go.
Absolutely. So I just going off base that list, I would say Henry Cejudo just purely on opportunity, because it does feel as though there's a 50-50 chance he will get that shot next. So just on opportunity, I would say Henry Cejudo, but I would also add to my as an addendum to Shevchenko. Shevchenko would be my second pick, man, because we have seen her fight Amanda Nunes, and they are very close. It is a very close fight. I know a lot of people, including some people on our staff, still firmly believe that Valentina won that fight, that rematch against Amanda Nunes. If Valentina defends her title once or twice against a Jessica I or something like that, I'm sure the UFC would be willing to let her get a second or a third shot, I guess, at this point at Amanda Nunes. So those would be my two answers. But let's keep it going, Marc. Where are you at?
All right, back to the comments from Trumbo. This is a little bit of a quick hitter type question. MMA retirements. Which fighters are retired at the end of 2019? Daniel Cormier. What do you think? Retired by the end of 2019 or no?
Yes.
I would agree. I don't think he's going to retire in March, but I think by the end of the year, Cormier does finally step away. I think he's going to fight. I think he'll fight a couple times this year, but I think by the end of the year, he's gone.
If he retired in March, he would retire without fighting. He doesn't have a fight booked.
Right, exactly. I think he's not retiring in March. That hard deadline was, I think that he wanted to keep it, but has not worked out that way.
Would you say it was a soft deadline?
It's certainly looking pretty soft right now.
Oh, I like the way you say that with your New York accent.
SAWFT. Jose Aldo. Retired or not retired by the end of 2019?
That's an interesting one. So he has 3 fights left. I don't think he'll get through those this year. So no, I say no.
He's hanging around. He's hanging around until 2020 at the very least. Fedor Emelianenko.
Oh my Lord. We almost just had an incident. My dog just knocked the lighting into knocked it down into my computer. That would have been a thing.
Your dog is really trying to sabotage the A side. What is going on here?
He's an attention whore who is trying to get more camera time. That's what it is. What did you ask me, Fedor?
Fedor, yes. Did your dog pooped last week, didn't she?
She did. I found the poop like an hour after the fact.
You didn't step in it, right?
No, it was just like behind the couch, like a dick. Like who come on, man. At least put it somewhere that I can like find it easily. It didn't smell, so like I'm having to like Inspector Gadget. Like not Inspector Gadget. That's not a I don't know why I said that.
Fedor Emelianenko.
I digress. Fedor. No, man, I think Fedor is gonna fight for like another 10 years at this point. Who knows with that guy? I'm done doubting Fedor. I think he's still going at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's probably still going. A lot will kind of determine that based on Saturday's fight against Ryan Bader. Of course, we'll figure out what's going on there. If he wins, yeah, certainly he's gonna still be fighting by the end of 2019. I don't know how many times Fedor fights this year, but I imagine it's probably only this one and maybe another one. And then yeah, I imagine he still has fights left in him in the future. Next, Tito Ortiz.
So this one's interesting. I think he will say he is retired by the end of the year. I am sure he may come back for another one because right now it appears as though he wants to come back to fight Chael again. He just can't quit MMA, so I'm sure he'll retire it.
So sorry to interrupt you. The post-fight press conference, Chuck versus Tito 3. Tito was adamant, I'm done, not coming back. Well, that was on a Saturday. What was it, like Tuesday when he said, all right, I'm back? What was it, like that was shortest retirement maybe in MMA history? I mean, it was like Saturday, I'm done, never coming back, nothing can bring me back. And then like Tuesday, he's like calling out Chael Sonnen, right? I mean, that's pretty much how it went.
That feels like the correct timeline.
So he will not be retired. He may be in a state of semi-retirement, but there's always a fight I think that can probably get him back. And I could see the Chael fight happening this year. I think that could very well happen.
So what you're saying is we're going to get Chael Tito 2, and then we're going to get Chuck Tito 5?
No.
3? 4? Where's we at? I don't know where we're at with that.
Tito should say that I'm trying to even the score because now it's 2-1 Chuck.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't think Chuck Liddell's fighting again. Conor McGregor. This is a good question.
No, I don't think he'll be retired. I think he still has whatever we get next. It's not going to be the Nate Diaz fight, and I think he still is going to stick around just one more for the Nate Diaz payday.
No, I don't think he'll retire by the end of 2019. I think that we're going to continue to wonder, is he done? When's his next fight? I think that's going to be a continuing thing throughout the rest of his career. I think, even if he fights again soon, which we have no idea because of the commission situation, I still think even after that fight, we'll be like, well, is he going to come back? What's he going to do? I think that'll be a question, I think, for the remainder of his career. Is he going to fight again? Habib Nurmagomedov.
No, I don't think he'll be retired. He'll be in mid-championship reign, basically.
Yeah, no. Although he has said many times that he only has about 3 fights left, that he only wants to do about 3 more fights. So he won't get those in by the end of 2019, but he could be gone before he should be, if that makes sense.
I mean, Daniel Cormier has said for years that he was going to be gone by March 2019, and he's not going to be. So Tito Ortiz retired 400 times. I mean, who knows?
As long as the money keeps coming in, it's very hard to turn down. And Habib is obviously at a ridiculous level of fighting. So
exactly.
No.
Next question. Oh my God. You guys know what you're doing with this. Next question is coming from the X Factor V2, who's Jesus Christ. And Adesanya versus Anderson Silva. Do you think the Adesanya versus Silva fight is irresponsible matchmaking? It just seems like this fight was made so that Silva can patch the torch to Adesanya. Going off what I've seen from Silva in his last few fights, it appears he just isn't the fighter he once was, and I've seen nothing to suggest he can turn back the clock and make this competitive. I think we could see a very similar fight to McDonald versus BJ Penn, and knowing how that turned out, I don't think I want to watch this fight. So, Mark, I don't need to hear 20 minutes of you filleting this fight. So,
excuse me.
Give me, you heard what I said. So give me 1 minute quick of why you feel like this is a competitive fight, because I have made my point very clear that this is not going to be a competitive fight. And I'm not excited for this really at all. I do not want to see Anderson Silva super, super, super badly beaten up like I feel like he's going to be.
Did you watch Cowboy Cerrone versus Alexander Hernandez on Saturday night at UFC Brooklyn? Did you watch it?
How old is Cowboy?
Did you watch that fight?
How old is Cowboy?
Remember the storyline going into that fight. The
How old is Cowboy?
Hungry Lion is going to take the torch from the old popular veteran. That's how it was billed. That's how everyone was talking, that Hernandez is going to come in and wipe out Cowboy and take his heat and move on with his career as a prospect in the lightweight division. Did not happen, did it, Shaun Al-Shatti? Did not happen. The old lion, the young dinosaur, Cowboy Cerrone, finished Alexander Hernandez in the second round. Made it look easy. Putting the naysayers aside.
Are you picking Anderson Silva here? Is this what this is?
Are you gonna let me finish?
I mean, it seems as though you're picking Anderson Silva.
Do not believe the stated narrative. Let's wait and see. I saw Anderson Silva yesterday. I saw him. I was there at his workout at his gym. Looked all right. Looked pretty good. Yes.
All right.
43 years.
Looked all right. That is the most ringing endorsement I've ever heard. He looked all right.
You can never count out the spider, my friend. You can never count out the spider. Remember what he's done throughout his career. He is a wizard in there. And, okay, no, he's not the same guy that he was when he beat Forrest Griffin. Okay, I acknowledge that, of course.
Oh, that's very brave.
Not the same guy he was even when he beat Stephen Bonner later on in that run. But he's still Anderson Silva, and you cannot count the man out. He's Spider-Man. He is Spider-Man. And
that's where
look, of course, Adesanya is the favorite, and I think Adesanya could be the next guy in the UFC. I think he's great. I love to watch his videos and hear him talk, and I think he's got so much charisma. I like the matchup because I think that this is a great fight for both of them. But all I'm saying is do not count out the spider.
You heard it here first. Israel Adesanya, Marc Raimondi of MMA Fighting, and the A-Side Live Chat Podcast is picking you to lose to Anderson Silva.
You can take that up. Anything that I said? Were you not listening? Did you not hear me?
You heard it here first.
Don't Israel, you can man out. This is Anderson effing Silva we're talking about here, man. This is not just another guy. This is not just another mid-40s dude, early 40s dude, whatever. This is Anderson
mid-40s.
The GOAT, the middleweight GOAT. Held the title for 7 years, 16 wins in a row, 10 title defenses in a row. That guy, don't count him out, Shaun Al-Shatti. That would be a mistake. That would be a big mistake.
Israel Adesanya, Marc Raimondi.
I'm not saying that.
Does not believe in you. He does not believe in you. All right.
I love Adesanya. I think he's great. I'm just saying, this is the spider.
All right. Next up, coming from Stonerhead on the MMA Fighting page. Hey, guys, love the show. Thank you. Should there be an instant rematch between TJ and Henry? A lot depends on what the UFC is going to do with 125. My thoughts, there shouldn't be a rematch straight away. Let both defend their titles and rematch much later if both are still champs. So this is kind of the big question that we're faced now with, Marc, because the big narrative going into UFC Brooklyn was it potentially could the future of the flyweight division was at hand. We never actually got an actual answer about that. Dana White played coy the whole entire lead up to that fight. He would not say one way or the other about flyweight. Now we're kind of at this place, though, and I'm going to have to say I think I agree with our friend Stonerhead here, man. It feels as though Henry Cejudo's win will mean less if he goes to bantamweight next, because just simply by the stakes that we established, right? Where he is here to defend the flyweights, he is here to protect the flyweights, to keep them alive. Mm-hmm. If he does that and then immediately goes to bantamweight,
it would ring hollow. It would ring hollow, right?
It would ring a little hollow, and I understand completely his perspective. I understand him wanting to be that double champion. I feel as though the idea and the concept of double champion has gotten a little diluted as of the last couple of years. I mean, we went from just Conor, to now there's Conor, DC, Amanda Nunes, and now TJ Dillashaw was trying for it. At a certain point, it loses its luster. I don't know that we've reached that yet. It still felt as though the Amanda Nunes win was very big, and same for DC. But at a certain point, it does. And of all of the champion versus champion fights that we've kind of been inundated with recently, this one was the one that made the least amount of sense, because you can sort of go back and justify, Daniel Cormier didn't have a light heavyweight contender at the time. There was nobody obvious at heavyweight. Him and Stipe kind of made sense organically. Same with Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg. There was no obvious contender at bantamweight, so it made sense for her to move up. There are very much guys waiting in the wings at flyweight and bantamweight both for TJ Dillashaw and Henry Cejudo. Right now, Joseph Benavidez deserves that title shot, and the first fight between Henry Cejudo and him was a barn burner. There's a story there, especially with Joseph.
Benavidez won.
Yeah. And Joseph is sort of the guy that the flyweight division was created for. There is a story there of his long, long journey to get to this point. Same with TJ Dillashaw, man. Marlon Moraes and Rafael Assunção are going to fight very, very soon. And that should be a number one contender fight. And if it's not, what are we doing at this point? I understand completely what Henry would like to do and why he would like to do it. But for the health of the division, if it was up to me, I would say fight your contenders.
Yeah, look, I never blame a fighter for trying to chase the big fight, trying to chase the money fight, so to speak, because we said it many times, there are very few opportunities for fighters to make that big payday. And when one is readily available to you and it's within reach, you have to take that because it may never come again. That's just the reality of the situation, the harsh reality. So I can't blame Cejudo for feeling that way, for maybe wanting to go to 135 and doing it. He has been saying that. It's not like, he kind of said both in the lead up to this fight, right? He said, I'm trying to win for the 125ers. I'm trying to win for the flyweights. But in the next sentence, he would always say, I want to win. I want to beat you. And then I want to give you a rematch at 135 for your belt. He was saying that the whole way. So it wouldn't completely ring hollow because he was also saying that, but I do get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, if you're truly the champion, if you're the champion of the division and you're championing the division, two different things, you got to stay there and defend the title and make sure that belt stays relevant and intact, because it may be gone tomorrow. Who knows? We have no clue what the future of the division is at this point. So if the UFC says tomorrow the division is gone, we're done, screw it, then okay, Cejudo, by all means, try to go up and fight Dillashaw at 135 for that title. Of course, that will be a tough pill to swallow, like you said, for guys like Marlon Moraes and then Rafael Assunção and other guys working their way up in the division who have been there, who have been doing it, who are on win streaks, who deserve it, whatever that means. But Cejudo did just be the champion, so there is something to be said for that too. And I'm inclined to think that could happen. And you have to wonder what happens if Marlon Moraes wins, and you're in a position where they have the same manager, Ali Abdelaziz, Marlon Moraes, and Henry Cejudo. What do you do then? Both of them probably want Dillashaw next for the 135-pound title. Tough position if you're Ali and if you're in that either one of those guys, if that's the case.
Yeah, man. I mean, it just feels to me at this point like I know exactly what you were saying, where Henry was saying this from the beginning. But at this point, if he went up to 135, and after everything we have discussed with flyweight, everything, all the uncertainty that has sort of surrounded flyweight, how long would he be gone at that point between a title defense? It would probably be at best 8 months, something like that. If you were trying to keep a division alive, that is a very difficult way to do it. To just basically have vacated the title for 8 months while there is a contender waiting in the wings. To me, it just doesn't make sense if you're trying to keep flyweight alive. Also, though, man, let me ask you, because before we move on to the next topic really quickly, It kind of feels two things, right? It feels, one, that the fans have rallied around flyweight in a way that I didn't really expect. That has long been a division where fans more or less have criticized it constantly and said they're not interested in it. And now that it's kind of potentially going away, they have rallied around it really in a way that is surprising to me. But also, too, it feels as though this division looks different with Henry Cejudo at the helm. And I don't mean that as a criticism for Demetrius Johnson at all, but it was always apparent that Demetrius did not enjoy promoting the fights. He did not really want to do interviews. He didn't really just enjoy the spectacle of this whole thing. And spectacle is part of it, especially when you're a champion. Henry Cejudo, on the other hand, very much enjoys that. He likes the idea of promoting. He is a very willing self-promoter. He is trilingual, so he's able to speak 3 different languages. He's able to do media in all sorts of various ways. Sometimes he hits and misses, like he brings the snake on stage, and I don't know. I think that was probably a miss, but I appreciate the effort. And this division does feel different to me with Henry Cejudo at the helm, and we never really gave Flyweight a chance to have someone else try to captain it. It has been Demetrius Johnson the entire way. I wonder if this division would be looked at differently had Demetrius lost 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Freshening up the division is not a bad thing. As good as DJ was, and as dominant as that run was, and as impressive as that run was, those don't always make for big ratings and big interest. If you feel like you already know the outcome of the fight, and maybe that was it. Maybe I don't think Demetrius Johnson was a boring fighter, but maybe what was boring is like, all right, we know DJ is going to win, and that's it. And you can't fault him for that.
No, that's certainly part of it.
He's doing what he has to do.
That's certainly part of it. I mean, you remember fights like the Ray Borg fight or others where it's just like, well, we obviously know what the outcome of this is going to be. And
but he did his best to make that one exciting.
Yeah,
threw a homeboy up in the air and then finished with an armbar.
Oh, absolutely.
Ridiculous.
I guess I just mean more of the lead up in the way that people anticipate fights.
Yes, absolutely. And Cejudo, yes, 100% what you're saying is right. He is at least putting in that effort to promote. And I don't know where the division goes from here. I hope it doesn't get nixed. I hope it doesn't get eliminated. I hope it stays. But all the writing on the wall, I mean, a good amount of the division has already been cut. I mean, we already have guys fighting in Rising. I mean, it seems like it is going to go the way of the dodo bird. It's going to be extinct soon, but hopefully there is a wave. # give flyweights a chance.
All right. Well, let's keep it going. We will try to get to as many of these questions as we can. Next up, coming on the MMA Fighting page from Fake BC, who wants to know about ESPN Plus numbers. Hey, I'm in Ireland, he writes, not the US, so maybe I'm missing something. But every analyst I've heard speak about the first ESPN event is quoting massive subscription increases for the app, etc. Every comment I see under these articles is something along the lines of free trial, LOL, I'll be canceling. I haven't heard anyone mentioning free trials when quoting the numbers, which I'd expect from Dana, but not yourselves or Luke, etc. What do you think the drop-off rate will be next week when these free trials end? P.S. Congrats, Shaun. That's how your name is spelled properly in the motherland with EAN. Thank you so much for that, Fake PC. I do appreciate that. So, Marc,
yeah,
he has a point that ESPN Plus for the I don't know if this is a deal they always have, but definitely for the Brooklyn show, there was an opportunity for fans to get a 7-day free trial and basically see this for free. And after that 7 days, it will then translate to $4.99 a month. Do you think the drop-off rate will be significant? Because the numbers that we are getting is they sold basically more than 500,000 subscriptions in one single day, which is astounding number for a streaming service.
So I think the number, Shaun, was I think 525,000, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturday alone. So that's a phenomenal number. That's a phenomenal number. Free trial aside, that is excellent. That is very, very, very good. So even with the free trial, that shows there is at least interest in watching, even if it is for free. So there is that base there. So they have to be very pleased with that number. Now, what happens a lot with free trials is that there is a drop off, but you still keep a pretty significant amount of those people. So if it was 525,000, even if they hold on to 300,000 people or maybe 250,000 people, still 250,000 people, that is still a huge, huge win for ESPN. And I'm inclined to think that they'll keep even more than that. I think they'll keep a good percentage of that. Even if they keep half, man, I think that's still a very, very big win. So people are saying, oh, I'm going to cancel the free trial. That's fine, but they're going to retain a lot of people. And $5 a month is not a crazy amount of money. Granted, this is an expensive sport to watch. We've talked about it. Pay-per-views are expensive. UFC Fight Pass is not cheap. ESPN Plus is another thing. If you want to watch The Zone and you want to watch Bellator, it's more on and on and on and on. But I think that ultimately this will be a success. Judging by that initial surge, I think it'll be a success. They're not going to keep all 525,000 from Saturday. No, but they may keep 300,000. And even if that's the case, that's a big deal. That's a big win.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know that this could have gone better for ESPN, at least, just to start off the relationship. And I agree with most of what you're saying. And also I want to throw in one aspect of it, which is just people's inherent laziness. And I include myself in this because I know there are a billion different times where I've signed up for a free trial of something. And then once you've already done that barrier to entry to actively make those moves to sign up for something, sometimes you just let it happen. And it's just actually you pay for it without even thinking about it. Everyone's busy. People have lives. I don't know that $5 is something that hangs over people's heads where, hey, on Saturday next week, I can't remember to cancel this. I think a lot of people are going to just let that overlap. And then they'll get used to the idea of, hey, these are where the ESPN or the ESPN Plus UFC events are. This is where most of the UFC events throughout the year are going to be. Screw it, I'll just buy this or I'll just keep this. So I do think that will play a part of it as well.
Absolutely. Moving on back to the comments from Unstable Puppet on MMA fighting. Oh wait, did I miss one?
You missed one, but it's about the flyweights in Cejudo, and we already talked about it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. It's a little bit of an overlap there. Okay, Unstable Puppet. Greg Hardy's egregious knee. I watched UFC with 4 friends of mine who were filthy casuals, and no one knew about Greg Hardy's backstory. Being dialed into the narrative of his shady past coming into the fight, I felt it was my responsibility to enlighten my friends about his past transgressions. Needless to say, everyone cheered when he lost. I have to give kudos to the media for never letting this story fall out of rotation. Even the live crowd felt the need to show Hardy their disdain. It was something to behold. As MMA journalists, are there other stories that you wish gained more traction and more people paid more attention to? Perhaps, man, he butchered Kareem's name. Perhaps Kareem Zidane's constant chronicling of the injustices happening in Chechnya under Kadyrov. Even the most hardcore fans I know have absolutely no idea about his ties to MMA. What are some really hard-hitting stories that you guys wish didn't fly under the radar? Shulabu. I don't know what that is, but that's what he wrote.
I was waiting to see if you would address that last part. So is this a question about Greg Hardy or is this a question about?
I think what Unstable Puppet is asking is there any story that maybe is going undercovered, a hard-hitting story that's going undercovered by the media that you wish would got more publicity, I guess?
I mean, there are certainly a few. I mean, Kareem has a lot of them. He is doing excellent work. Always read his stuff. He is doing amazing stories about just Kadyrov and various things in Russia and all just sorts of the more sketchier side of this game. Also, I think the UFC lawsuit is generally pretty underreported. The various lawsuits that are going on with that, and it's a lot of nuance that is at least hard for me as someone who doesn't have a law degree to understand. I think that's part of it. But I want to also just say briefly about Greg Hardy, just anecdotally, man. I was watching this event live on Saturday, and I had so many of my friends on various text threads talking about this fight as it was coming up. It was almost surprising to me how many people were paying attention to Greg Hardy that are outside of the MMA bubble, people who would not be watching otherwise. And I don't know that could have gone worse for the UFC and Greg Hardy. I do not know that there is a worse possible outcome than him gassing out, looking kind of like trash on the ground, looking like CM Punk, and then just getting disqualified with something illegal like that and the crowd serenading him with asshole chants. That is pretty much the worst case scenario playing out in real time. So that was very interesting to see.
I felt that way too about Greg Hardy, but about Greg Hardy. But now that I think about it, I don't know anymore. I almost feel like people are going to want to watch his next fight even more now to see what happens, to see how he looks, and to see if he does anything horrible. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I feel like he actually maybe came out with more intrigue after that fight. I hate to say it. It's a weird world that we're living in.
I don't know. I feel like part of him was the mystery, right? Of where this guy was just this crazy athlete, knockout artist who hadn't gone past a minute. And now we've really gotten a look at a lot of other parts of his game, and they're very his experience level is showing. I'll say that. I mean, he is not a very experienced fighter, and it is obvious once you see him in other aspects of this game. I don't know that the same type of reaction is going to be there for the general audience for the next time out. Whereas if my phone's getting barraged with texts about, oh my God, Greg Hardy's about to fight, I don't know that that's going to happen the next time out after a lot of what we saw on Saturday.
There's one thing we know, though, Shaun, is that controversy does create interest and intrigue. And certainly losing the way that he did with by disqualification and illegal knee creates a little bit of controversy and thereby creates some intrigue. So I think that people are actually going to be interested in watching him again. This is actually not the question that was asked to us. As far as stories that I think are going undercovered, I agree. The lawsuit story, which it's been a long time that the lawsuit is going on, and there have been some, I guess, like minor stories in there, but it's very hard to kind of cover that on a regular basis, at least for me, because how much do fans really care? That's what I always weigh. Like I do a lot of, I guess, like investigative stories. I mean, I try to do as many as I possibly can, or more of like the hard news type stuff. And you have to always weigh, like, how much do fans really care about this? Is this important to the fans? Is it important to the fighters? I really think that one of the big things that goes undercovered is just like the union efforts and like, but there has been so little. I mean, fighters don't seem to really care that much about union stuff or like organization stuff, and I don't know how much fans care about that either. So I'm always kind of weighing what's important and what people actually care about, and sometimes they are different things, and you have to kind of figure out what's really worth going after. Because these pieces, by the way, when you write like an investigative piece, it's very time consuming.
Oh yeah, man.
It's a very time consuming thing. I mean, sometimes they can take weeks. Sometimes they can take months to actually get everything you need to get. If you want to do them really well and you want them to be good, you have to take a lot of time. There's one going on right now that I wish I had more time to do. It's the WBKFF story, the World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation deal. I think that's the name of it. They apparently haven't paid a lot of fighters. They haven't paid almost all their fighters from their first show in Casper, Wyoming, from a few months ago. I would love to write more about this. But it's and I believe My MMA News has done a good job covering it, so you can check out their work on that. But I would love to have written more about it, but it's just a time crunch for me. I hate to say it, that's just being honest, but there are UFC fights every week. There's Bellator this week. There's only so many hours in the day.
No, I mean, you're right, man, and it's an unfortunate. I think that's kind of a sad reflection on the state of media and maybe the state of the world at large, just in general, because I know for me, I mean, I made my bones in this game early on doing very long form, time consuming features. And I haven't done one for a while. And it's really just, like you said, it's the time, man. It takes so much time and effort to be able to put together something of that magnitude. And then I've had ones where I've taken months and months and months to do them. And then they come out and they get less clicks than, Brock Lesnar farting on somebody. It's depressing. It's very depressing when you put that much work into something that doesn't end up, nobody cares about it much. So,
yeah.
And I think that speaks to, I think, how media is changing in general, which is, as someone who grew up reading gorgeous Sports Illustrated profiles every week from various boxers or whoever on whoever, and just ingested that stuff like it was candy. That was what I grew up on. It's depressing a little bit for me. I definitely have struggles with it, of wanting to do that type of thing more and just not having the time to do it. Because like you said, it's nonstop. We don't have an off season. Every week there's something else that our attention has to be on. So, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But I would like to be able to return to that space in some capacity. We just need to figure it out.
Yeah, and also if anyone watching, if there are ideas you have, or there are things that you feel like are being undercovered, not or uncovered, not covered. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. But if you feel like we're missing stuff in our coverage, or if there are holes in our coverage at MMAfighting.com, feel free to reach out to us via email or Twitter or Instagram, whatever. We're always willing to listen to feedback. Look, these are things that I think about every single day, Shaun. I mean, I really do. As far as coverage and strategy and what we're doing and how we're covering things. So I'm always willing to listen to feedback and see what fans really want, because that really is what we do. We were trying to deliver to you guys what you want. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's keep things rolling on the MMA fighting page. This will probably be the last comment we get to on the MMA fighting page. And so I'm very sorry. The next comment who comes from Dior Almalat.
Let me answer this really quick. So Dror Alamat is asking, why does the clock disappear during UFC broadcasts in the final 10 seconds? It's a very easy answer because that is not the official clock.
Yeah,
it's not,
exactly.
Not synced with the official commission clock, and therefore it would be very confusing to the viewers to see the clock on the television expire and then not have the bell ring for another half second or second after that. That's why it goes away. It's not in sync with the commission clock. That's it.
Exactly. And I mentioned that because I know we missed you last week too. So I appreciate you trying again. Hopefully that was a good enough answer, because that was basically the only answer. That is exactly why. It's not official. But last one coming from the MMA fighting page from BCG347, who wants to do a little quick game of Would You Rather. Are you ready, Marc?
Yes, I'm ready.
Would you rather Daniel Cormier's last fight be versus Jon Jones or Brock Lesnar? Jon Jones for me.
Hard one. It's a hard one. I would say,
God, you Marc. You're such a Marc.
I would say Brock Lesnar.
You're such a Marc. You're such a Marc. And I like that works on two levels, because your name is Marc too. I didn't even realize that. That's good.
Wow, you're really clever, Shaun. What a wordsmith.
Hey, this is what married life does to you. You're just
been 4 days.
Would you rather Conor McGregor's next fight be against Cowboy or Nate Diaz? I'm going to say Cowboy.
I am going to say Cowboy, which doesn't mean I don't want that trilogy fight to happen. I do, but I would say next fight, Cowboy.
Agreed. Last one. Would you rather see CM Punk fight in the UFC again or watch BJ Penn versus another young up-and-comer? Oh, Jesus. I don't want the latter at all, ever. So I'm going to say CM Punk, even though I have no interest in it.
How about we split the difference? CM Punk versus BJ Penn.
Now you're talking.
Make it happen. Do it. I'm not even joking.
Oh, I'm not joking either. I am in on that. I am
at 170. CM Punk versus BJ Penn. I am all in on that one.
Oh man, if it would be very depressing if CM Punk beat BJ Penn.
There's no way that could happen.
You would think so.
There's no way. It's not possible.
God, now I'm just thinking about it and it's depressing me. Let's go over to Twitter. We got a bunch of Twitter questions. We have about 10 more minutes before I know you got to get to Bellator. So let's hit as many of these as we can. You got one on the ready?
No, but sure. From Michael Kondrachuk. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Probably not. Do you guys think Joanna can go back to 115? Oh, I don't want to read that one.
Oh, Jesus. Moving on. Jesus, Marc.
I obviously did not have one at the ready.
Proofread your damn questions, Marc. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Oh, my God. I was waiting for you to... Never mind.
Put my foot in my mouth. Damn you, Kondrachuk.
This one's coming from Diddy Bop, loyal listener who asks something very near and dear to my heart. What is harder to watch? Watching Phoenix Suns attempt to play competitive basketball or watching Greg Hardy as he walks to the octagon dreaming of illegal strikes? I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm getting close to the point where I can't follow the Phoenix Suns anymore. Like, they've kind of beaten the life out of me at this point. This has been the hardest season of my fanhood live ever at this point, and I've endured a lot of losing over the past decade. I don't know that I can stick with it anymore. This was supposed to be the turnaround season, and we are worse this year than we have ever been. And it just appears as though there is no end in sight to the losing. The players don't mesh well together. We have nothing but wings. We have no bigs. We don't have a point guard. It's such a poorly constructed team. We probably picked the wrong guy with DeAndre Ayton over Luka Doncic. There are just so many problems. I just can't even deal with it anymore. I don't know how long I can stick with this, man. I might become like an Atlanta Hawks fan or something. I'm just saying. Anything would be better than this.
Atlanta Hawks. Come on, man.
Dude, anything would be better than this. You don't understand the pain I'm going through right now.
From Abs Un on Twitter, does Cejudo have any shot at Nikki Bella, or is she just humoring him? Also, what do you think his ceiling is, seeing as he's just over 5 years into MMA?
I didn't know who Nikki Bella was until
Ariel
started playing matchmaker between these two.
That stuff with on Ariel show is so great with Cejudo and Nikki Bella. That is really fantastic.
It certainly seems like he has a chance.
I mean, I don't know if he does or he doesn't. I was asked by another commenter on Twitter, can you explain who Nikki Bella is if you have no wrestling knowledge? So let me do that really quick.
You're not wasting the rest of our time with this.
All right, fine, forget it. I'll message you back, pal. Trey.
The second part of that question, though, is very interesting. What is the ceiling on Henry Cejudo? Because
that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I feel like that's not being talked about enough because people are focusing on the stoppage and division. Henry Cejudo is freaking awesome. He could be one of an all-time great. Down the road.
Man, his level of just improvement is tremendous at this point. I remember it was only a few years ago when he was making his UFC debut. It was actually here in Arizona. It was on the same card that JDS and Stipe fought on. It was their first fight. And I did a feature with Henry Cejudo for that event of just, finally getting to the UFC. And people laugh so much about the gold medal and this and that. And, he's a gold medalist. But there is a very real difference between a legitimate blue chip athlete being in this sport and just a regular dude off the street who found out he was good at fighting. And we are seeing this now with the level of the growth rate that Henry Cejudo has experienced over the past several years. Just even past 4 fights since he lost to Joseph Benavidez is astounding, man. All areas of his game have improved so much, and as he has adopted this karate style stance, it is just incredible to watch. I mean, he is better and better every time we see him. And now this, after knocking out TJ Dillashaw in 32 seconds, it really feels as though I have no idea what his ceiling is as an athlete, because he is still so young and new in this. He could be doing this for another 5 years if he wanted to. He is like a Daniel Cormier type of situation where they may have been in sports before this, but they weren't in combat sports in a way where they were getting brain damage and they have damage and wear and tear on them. They're very much still, Henry Cejudo is very much still in his athletic prime, and he is just getting better. I am very excited for the future of Henry Cejudo.
Yeah, I agreed. Whether it's at 125 or 135, which seems somewhat inevitable. I want to answer at least one more. Adam Bosco chiming in from the Twitter. Do you think every state will adapt the unified rules by the end of 2019? And my answer is absolutely not. No, it will not happen. I don't see. There's no end in sight to this disjointment of the unified rules. It's going to be different pretty much everywhere for a long time. I don't see any resolution to this problem.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanna ask, or should we go to the promo?
Let's get one more. Let's get at least one more.
Sure.
Let me see.
Got one?
Oh, this is a good one from Only MMA here. If Conor McGregor does fight Cowboy next, would that be his most important fight to date in terms of his career at this point? Still a star in a pay-per-view draw, but losing again and again cannot be good. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say it would be the most important of this recent run. Not as important as some of the wins that got him to this level, because now that he's at this level, it'll take a lot for him to drop. He's still going to be a draw, even if he loses to Cowboy. He's still going to be a big name. But as far as this recent,
will he though? He'll be a big name. He'll be a big name, but will he be a $1 million pay-per-view draw at that point?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But I still think the fights that I would say, like the Chad Mendes fight, was more important. He really needed to win that fight. He really needed to beat Chad Mendes. If he didn't, then there's no Aldo fight. Then there's no historic run. There's no Mayweather. So that was the most important one for me, in my eyes. This one is the most important one for him to kind of stay above board, so to speak, as far as being a draw goes. But again, even if he loses this one, I still think that he's still the biggest star in UFC history, even after that, 2 straight losses.
I think, to me, the Jose Aldo fight,
Silva and all as well.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You just couldn't help yourself. I think, to me, the Jose Aldo fight was probably the most important, because there was so much. It was years building up to that. If he would have come out and lost in that big moment, he would have never lived it down. That would have been his legacy, regardless of the Chad Mendes fight. And I think the second most important one was probably the second Diaz fight, because if he loses Nate Diaz twice right after everything he did at featherweight, no one cares. No one cares about everything you did at featherweight. At that point, you're the guy that lost to Nate Diaz twice in a row after you're talking all this big game of taking over this division. But it really does. He is correct in a sense that every fight every next fight is your most important fight for a lot of fighters, and especially for someone like a Conor McGregor, where your profile is so high and a loss can affect you in such a dramatic way. If he loses to a guy like Cowboy, who we love Cowboy, man. I mean, Don Cerrone is a tremendous guy, tremendous fighter, but he has historically been more or less a high level, high tier gatekeeper at 155. And if he loses to Donald Cerrone at this point in his career, after losing to Khabib, losing to Floyd Mayweather, and just losing to Nate Diaz once, at a certain point, he just ceases to be Conor McGregor, the superstar that we know him to be, and is just, hey, that is the guy who used to be the big guy. He used to be Conor McGregor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that's I don't disagree. Looking back and talking about all those McGregor matchups, you know, for a guy that has gotten criticized for kind of taking maybe not the hardest route to where he has gotten, there were some risky fights in there. There were some really tough fights that he came out on the other side of scot-free. So you have to go back and look at that Chad Mendes fight where he wasn't preparing for Chad Mendes, a guy who was a wrestler when he's training to fight Jose Aldo. That was a very risky move for him, and he came out on the other side of it.
He had a torn ACL.
That's right.
He had a torn ACL for that fight. Like, it was hanging on by the thread, is what I've been told. It's just, I feel like that narrative, I know we're going a little long, so I'll end this here, but I feel like that narrative of Conor having not faced a hard road on wherever the way he was going, I feel like that ended before the Chad Mendes fight, right? Because at that point, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, two Nate Diaz's, Eddie Alvarez, and then even if you take out Floyd, just coming back from such a long layoff to fight a guy like Khabib, right? There's not an easy fight in that bunch. All of those are tough fights. Yeah,
that narrative has not aged well, I think.
All right. Well, hey, I know you need to get to some Bellator action.
Ooh, those are open workouts.
So
actually, not open workouts, media workouts.
Let's do the promo. You want me to go first? Or you want to go?
No, I'll go first. Very quickly, I had a great conversation last night with, speaking of Bellator, Adel El-Tamini, who fights in the opener of the main card at Bellator 214 on Saturday night. And this man has an incredible story. It's a heart-wrenching story, but also a little bit of a feel-good story as well. This is a guy who grew up in Baghdad, Iraq, and he left there 10 years ago, but he was there throughout the war, the multiple wars there. He saw some heinous stuff, including his karate sensei, his first ever karate sensei getting basically blown up by a bomb at a gas station. He witnessed one of his friends, close friends, right there, eyewitness, get gunned down by gunfire during an attack. He worked with the U.S. Marines as a driver during the war. That was his ticket out of Baghdad. Him and many men in his family were drivers for the Marines, and they were able to bring him over to the United States. And he's lived in Los Angeles now for the last 10 years. And he has worked his way up in MMA, and he's gotten the Bellator contract. And he trains with a very unusual, interesting group of people. He trains at King's MMA, but he also trains and he works at Unbreakable Gym in West Hollywood with Jay Glazer. And there he met Chris Pratt and Wiz Khalifa, and he's very close friends with these guys. This is a guy who comes from the most humblest of beginnings, where he saw some of the worst things you can imagine, and now he's rubbing elbows with A-list stars. Chris Pratt, Star-Lord Shaun, is going to be walking Adel El-Tamini out on Saturday night for his Bellator debut. It's a really cool, interesting story, very unique story, and just seems like a great person. Just seems like a tremendous guy to have made it out of war-torn Baghdad to now be getting walked out on national television for his Bellator debut by Chris Pratt, by a guy who's in some of the biggest movies to ever have been done. It's a wild, crazy, cool roller coaster of a story. But I implore you, I wrote a story about that. It came out this morning, and of course the fight is on Saturday night. So check that story out if you can, and watch that fight. It's pretty darn interesting.
Absolutely, man. I echo everything you said. I read that story last night when you put it into the system, and that is an incredible story that man has. He has gone through some stuff, and he has persevered out through the other side. So please check out Marc's story. I remind me one more time of the name.
Adel El-Tamini.
There you go. Well, then for me, I just have this. Mine will be very brief, and we already mentioned it at the beginning of the show. But Marc, something came to my attention yesterday, and it changed my world. I'm not going to lie. Now, I've heard of the Latin American reality show Exalthon. I think it's Exalthon, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know Spanish. But I've heard of that show before. I know that Jorge Masvidal was on it last year, and I believe Boyito Perez was on it before as well. But I am not going to lie. I've never watched it. Never even really looked into it. I had no idea what it was until yesterday. And why was yesterday different? Well, because someone told me that it was a show that basically featured celebrity athletes running through all sorts of bizarre obstacle courses, and that one of those celebrity athletes for this season was none other than the soldier of God himself, Yoel effing Romero, man. So I do a little bit of research, and I find out that this isn't some weekly show. This isn't some bi-weekly show. No, this is a daily show. This is a daily show, daily, as in every single day. So I look up Yoel Romero's Instagram feed, and wouldn't you know it, there they are, man. There they are. You're telling me that I'm going to get daily videos of Yoel Romero crushing all sorts of insanely bizarre, weird-ass obstacle courses for upwards of 3 months, just every day of these videos? Yeah, man. Looks like I'm a fan of Telemundo now. I'm into this. I could not be more on board with this, Mark. I don't know what it is, but there is something oddly fascinating about seeing that man, just one of the scariest dudes in the entire game, thrust into a position like this. I do not know what it is. I just cannot help but watch this.
Warrior.
I cannot help but watch this, man. And at this point, hell, screw fighting. Yoel Romero is 41 years old. Just let him compete in various physical challenges live on TV until the end of his days. I'm all about this. Can you imagine what it would be like to be in a contest like this, and then you see a shirtless Yoel Romero walk through the door? I would pack up my things and just leave at that point. Like, you're not winning. You're obviously not going to win. That guy's going to win. So, hey, well done, Yoel. You have made a Telemundo viewer out of me. I cannot wait to watch this.
That man is he's quite the physical specimen, Shaun. An absolute unit. An absolute unit.
Absolute unit. And he's doing his soldier of God thing after every finished run.
I'd pay top dollar to watch Yoel Romero just do various superhuman feats around the world.
Yeah. Why is this not a thing already? Why can't we?
Why isn't he fighting crime? Like why isn't he using his powers for good? He should be out here. He should be out here. He should be in Chicago. Like he should be out there just knocking dudes' heads. I mean, cracking skulls.
Can we just make?
God. I mean, that's his superhero name.
Can we just make the Romero Costa fight a series of 20 days in a row of these sort of physical challenges?
Did you see that the UFC did a comic book before UFC 232?
I did.
It was like a weird sci-fi comic book. Why is there not a Yoel Romero comic book? I mean,
tailor-made for it.
He looks like a comic book character already.
As a 41-year-old man.
These are great ideas. Someone should run with that. Yoel Romero comic book, just doing superhuman things all over the world.
Well, that's what we do here on the A-Side Live Chat podcast. We have great ideas.
We do. Fantastic ideas.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap things up. Marc Raimondi needs to get the hell out of here. He's going to be late.
I'm late.
So, hey, thank you so much for joining us this week. It has been a really fun one. My first one as a married man, and I enjoyed it. So we will be back again next week. Same time, same place, Marc?
We'll see.
Same time, same place.
Let's get through this week first.
In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy the fights. This has been the A-Side Live Chat podcast. My name is Shaun Al-Shatti. For Mr. Marc Raimondi, the California King out there, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Stay tuned for Bellator 214 coverage.